What is the most bone-chilling sentence you've heard someone say? The hospital social worker wants to meet with you. This was said to me after a coworker drove me to the hospital. We'd gotten a message that my husband was in a car accident. I figured he'd busted his leg and would have a crappy few weeks, but that would be that. I was greeted with the above sentence and the thought smacked me upside the head so intensely that I could literally hear ringing in my ears afterward. Asterisk, the social worker only shows up when people might die. Asterisk. My husband had multiple leg fractures, a collapsed lung, and was bleeding out from internal abdominal wounds. He was thankfully able to be saved and returned home after a few weeks in the hospital and had PT for several months, but the physical damage was intense and will have lifelong effects, especially the intestinal bowel stuff. My daddy's dead. A 6-year-old girl calling in her father's suicide when I was a 911 dispatch trainee. I watched most of my friends get gunned down on that beach. My great-grandfather told me this the first and only time I asked about the war. He landed in Normandy. I can't imagine what it's like watching as most of your friends are just gunned down instantly. He didn't make it. Said by my sister about 30 minutes after she initially called me to let me know they were rushing to the hospital because my dad had a heart attack. I was in a different state, so all I could do was sit on my hands and remain optimistic because he was only 53. Like that's asterisk young asterisk. When she called me again, the first words out of her mouth was, "He didn't make it." I just remember dropping the phone and running out the front door and collapsing on the ground crying. I could hear my father-in-law saying, "Oh no. No 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 no," as I was running out the door. It's been 16 years and it's like I remember everything in that moment, but also like I don't. Just small pieces. A friend's older aunt, who posted a comment under my friend's Facebook post about being abused as a kid by a family friend I'll call Kevin. My friend described her abuse when Kevin was always around the family as a general neighbor, handyman, and helper who also quietly groomed her and made himself out to be her boyfriend until she was hospitalized for self-harm at 13. My friend was saved by a mandatory reporter. Kevin found to have a history with young girls and took his own life. That fucked up my friend for years. Her aunt came out with a comment like, "Oh, it wasn't like that. I remember when you and Kevin came over to help with my gutters, you made the most beautiful couple. You adored each other." The aunt moved overseas when my friend was 11, so she was describing a time when my friend was a preteen with Kevin aged 26, as a beautiful couple. She was being abused by this man as an 11-year-old. He pretended to be a friend to the family, and even some of her own family saw and remembered it as a consensual happy relationship. Gives me the creeps thinking about how invisible some of this is. I'm going to go home, get my hunting rifle, come back here and shoot you in the face. An actual death threat given by a player. I was security in a casino I was escorting out. The police were called, and they found the threat serious enough to arrest him and put him on a psych hold. Technically this happened to my girlfriend, but we were dog sitting for a puppy and had spent all day trying and failing to get it on a potty schedule. So when the dog woke her at 4 a.m. to go out, she didn't even wake me, just hurried as fast as she could out of our apartment to the closest potty spot, the building's alley exit. A very dark alley sandwiched between two tall buildings that was always empty. Not that night though. As she's trying to get the dog to pee, a man dressed in black came up to her. She described him as having dead, piercing blue eyes and the demeanor that instantly scared her. Then he asked her, "Do you want to be my friend?" No, she did not. I am God in human clothing, and you've already seen it. Remember when lightning struck in your yard? I threw it there to scare the shit out of you, said to me by my ex-husband. Oh, the smell is old laundry. Come to find out, the smell I mentioned to an acquaintance was a dead body rotting in his closet. You need to get to the hospital. Your dad's heart rate is starting to drop. I was 16 at the time, and he died just a minute or two before I made it to him. This happened about 10 years ago. It was about 10 p.m. and my around 5-year-old niece asked my wife for some candy. She said yes, and then I whispered to her, "It's a little late, maybe she should wait till tomorrow." My wife agreed and told her to wait till the next day. I didn't think anything of it, went into my room, left the door open but had all the lights off. I laid down in bed and was playing some random game on the laptop. All of a sudden I look up and see my niece standing at the foot of the bed. She turns to me and says, "I know it was you that said I couldn't have any candy." Kids are creepy. You'd be surprised how strong human flesh will hold onto a blade. Told by a friend's dad who served in Korea as the guy sent into foxholes to clear out sleeping enemies before they could wake up. I'm sorry to say this, but I don't love you anymore. This 80% blockage in a main artery to your heart is at a place we call the Widowmaker. Bring my daddy back. Please bring my daddy back. Someone bring my daddy back. When you least expect it, I'll be back to kill you. Yep, after 20 years I'm still looking over my shoulder. You have about 18 months to live and get your affairs in order. I cheated on you because you're pathetic. I don't understand, if you're accused of rape, why don't you just lie and say she consented? A senior in high school.